What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living in Accra, Ghana. And if you want to know how to, basically, if you want to know how to travel around Africa and find out about all the different places that you can go and the things that you can do in many different countries, then this is the video for you. All right. We are live. We're live everywhere. I didn't really think through that intro, as you guys can tell. So we're live. We are live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook, and we're live on YouTube. So if you're watching on Instagram and on YouTube, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you guys can hear me. Instagram. What's up, everybody on Instagram? Today, we're going to be talking about traveling to Africa and how you can travel and the different places that you can go and what you can do in different countries. I'm going to have a special guest on today. But before we get into the topics that we're going to talk about today, can you guys give me a thumbs up so we know that you can hear me? Thumbs up on Instagram. Let's see. All right, cool. So Abeni Maroon says, hey, what's up? How's it going? Menelik is here. What's up? Shout out to you. Can you guys hear me on Instagram? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me on Instagram. Phoenix Mars 01, can you hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me on Instagram. By the way, if you're watching on Instagram, I'm going to pin a comment for you. If you want to see our guests today, you want to go to the pinned comment. Okay, so Pastor Catherine Smith said you can hear me. Okay, cool. You guys can hear me. So I'm trying to pin this link. What is going on with Instagram? So I'm pinning the link to the YouTube video. If you guys want to see our guest, because you're gonna hear our guest. But if you want to see our guest, click on the pinned link there. So the link is pinned. So you got it. All right, cool. And you guys can hear me on YouTube too. Okay, great. So all right, cool. Miss Elaine says, hey, Joe, how are you? Glad to be here. Glad you're here as well. Shout out to Miss Elaine 121. So again, we're going to talk about visiting the continent and your guide to different places, different cultures, different activities that you can do on the continent. And so we have a guest here today, which I'm going to bring up in a second. But before we do, just some quick housekeeping for those of you who are new. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa, as I mentioned earlier in the intro. I am a Sierra Leonean American. I do live in Accra, Ghana. I am building a house in Sierra Leone, so I go back and forth between Sierra Leone and Ghana. I worked for a year in Ghana at a company called Jumia. It's kind of like the Amazon of Africa. They're publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. I worked as the head of advertising for a year, and I most recently shifted to a new job. I work for a US-based company. So I'm in the States once every 3 months for about a month. And so things have changed pretty dramatically for me over the last year in terms of like where I stay and how long I stay. But all of that is on this channel. So my goal is to help you if you're deciding to move or if you want to visit and you want to understand what it might be like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I talk about it. And trust me, this week has been challenging. It's been an exercise. It's been an exercise in patience. And so by the time you guys get to all the content from this week, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, all of my travels around West Africa, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ghana. I've also been to Egypt. That's obviously not West Africa. That's North Africa. But I did document that element as well. So I do a weekly vlog every week. So you know what the last week has been like. I also interview different people who are from the diaspora that are now living here. Sometimes I interview them on this live. Sometimes I interview them and record it and edit it and put it out. The next interview that I am going to be putting out is with Della, aka Natural Ghana Girl. So you guys will get a chance to hear her story about why she moved to Ghana. And many of you probably know her already since my YouTube analytics tell me many people who watch my channel watch her channel. So it'll be interesting to hear her story in her own words. And so you guys will get a chance to see that probably this week. If not this week, next week. I'm still working on some minor edits to that. Menelik tells me try not to yawn today. We'll see. I can't control that. Missy Lane says hey to Miss P, and Miss P is here. Shout out to Miss P. All right, cool. So our guest has been okay. So before I get into our guest, there's a quick question about me, and that's a good question. So is it Mechia Capri says, have you visited Francophone countries? Not yet. So Senegal is the first Francophone country I want to visit. I haven't been to Senegal as of yet because I want to try Senegalese jollof, since it's all, people are talking about how great it is. So I want to see how good it is comparatively speaking. But I also want to go to Senegal just because I hear it's a beautiful country and I hear a lot of good things. But no, I haven't been to any of the Francophone countries. I also plan to go to Ivory Coast as well. So it's on my list of places to go. I got people that are there that want to show me around and have a good time. So it's on my list of places to go. These are probably all going to be places I go in 2023, but I have not been to any Francophone countries. And by the way, if you want to see our guests, like I said, if you're watching on Instagram Live, click on the pinned link to go to YouTube to watch live. All right, now with that, I am going to bring on the CEO of Talking Drums. Her name is YOA. I've been calling her YOA this whole time, throughout this time. You are muted, just in case. She has been a long-time subscriber and has always been really active on the channel. And her and we connected recently, and you shared a video with me, and I thought it was really interesting what you're doing, and I thought it'd be great to have you on the channel to talk about what you're doing for people who are planning to visit and want to visit different places besides Ghana or Sierra Leone, since you've been a few places on the continent. So before we go any further, maybe I should turn it over to you to introduce yourself, what it is you do and your YouTube channel, so that everybody can become familiar with you before we get into the content of today's
live. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you again for having me. I absolutely love this channel. This is one of my favorite YouTube channels. And as I was just telling you earlier, this is part of my Monday morning schedule. So I'm so excited to be on the channel today. And hello to everyone tuning in. My name is Ya. I'm originally from Ghana, as the name gives away for all of those of you who know about Ghanaian naming. I can go into detail about that later. Born and raised in London, Southwest London to be precise. So representing for Southwest. And I outside of my day to day, I founded Talking Drums, which is an Africa-focused sustainable travel and culture platform. And essentially, this grew out of my love for travel, but particularly my love for travel in Africa, and just realizing that this wasn't really something that people did. And when I wanted to travel Africa more, when I wanted to see Africa more, no one would come with me. So initially, I would just go by myself, and I became this amazing solo traveler. But as time went on, I realized that actually there are people who want to explore Africa and maybe don't necessarily know how. And I was in that same position. So if there's a way I can kind of just share my experiences, or more recently actually host trips, then I'd be super happy to do that. In a nutshell.
Nice. And you're documenting it for YouTube, right?
Yes, kind of. So this also stemmed from like a struggle with sharing. So Talking Drums was initially a blog, but I just never blogged because I was like, oh, I'm really struggling to share these experiences. But then I realized that actually you can't have a blog and not blog. Yeah, so it was a process, got there eventually. But I've also partnered with people recently who I'll talk about later, but they're just incredible, and they have this vlogging game on lock, and then also having the opportunity to talk to yourself, who also has this vlogging game on lock. So I just feel like I have the opportunity to learn a lot more about the YouTube space and the vlogging space. And I do have a YouTube channel now, which was live as of 2 days ago, and has a visual portrait that was shot in Tanzania, actually in someone's back garden. They have a waterfall in their back garden. So please do check it out and let us know what you think. But I think I'm seeing that it's important to document for people to really see. I can explain and I can tell people how amazing a trip is or a country is, but I think there's so much value in the visuals and them seeing what has been documented through our eyes, so to speak.
Absolutely. All right, excellent. So, I was gonna originally ask you where you're from, but you already said Southwest London. So I caught that. I was in okay. I'm trying to figure out where geographically where these places were. So I was in Peckham,
Yeah.
right? Is Peckham Southwest London or is that Southeast London?
I feel like Peckham Southeast, but I think it's on the border with.
Okay.
Correct me
What
if I'm
wrong.
London is in the chat.
What about Lewisham? Where's Lewisham?
Lewisham Southeast, yeah. Firmly.
Southeast. Okay. So I was in Southeast. I just know there was more Black people there, right? Because everywhere else I was in London, I didn't see too many of us. But when I got to Lewisham and I got to Peckham, I was like, oh, okay, this kind of reminds me of like Harlem.
Right. So, like, oh, this is where we are.
Yeah. A lot of Africans, a lot of Caribbeans. Okay. So you're but you're originally Ghanaian. So are your parents both Ghanaian?
Yes. So parents both Ghanaian, both from the eastern region in Ghana.
Okay.
Quo to be specific. So most people know Quo for the Easter celebrations. Most people go to Quo at Easter. It's in the mountains, and they also do like paragliding off of the mountain. So it's famous for that. But yeah, so they actually are both from the same place, but yeah, they came to the UK.
Okay. And so I want to get into talking drums a little bit, but before I do, how often were you going back and forth to Ghana growing up? Like, did you come back often?
Good question. So the first time I went, I think I was around 12 years old. That was in year 8, which is like your second year in secondary school. So I think I was about 12 or 13. That was my first time. Absolutely loved it, but also at the same time was just in awe that I was finally in Ghana. I'd heard of this place for so many years. When family members used to come to the UK, we used to like open their suitcases and like smell some of the cloth that they bought. Like, oh my God, this is what Ghana smells like. Just really excited about going. So yeah, absolutely, really loved it. Learned so much. So from that age, I think we went like every 2 years up until I finished school, and then I think I went I think we went initially every 2 years, and then later on, I tried to go myself, especially in my adult age. I tried to go at least once a year. Some years have been twice, some years haven't, but early teens was the first time.
Okay, got it. So couple quick things before we go on from that, because I think that's interesting, and then getting to where you are now, right, and how often you've been coming. Just want to, because I always forget to do this, I want to give, just to react to some of the comments so far. So a taste of Cath says both in Southeast. Peckham and Lewisham are both in Southeast London. Okay, good to know. David Macrae says hello. What's up, David Macrae? So 2 people have brought up the background noise, both YM West Africa and
this
James
is my
Mercer.
Hey,
yes,
James.
so yes, we do know there is a sound in the background. Unfortunately, we're not able to stop it, but I hope you guys can bear with us because a lot of good information here. But yeah, I mean, technology sometimes has a mind of its own, and we cannot stop it. So we tried a couple of different things to remove the sound, and we were unsuccessful prior to going live. So if you guys can just pay more attention to our voices, or just think of it as like a clock. You know how clocks make a little ticking noise? Just think of it like that. It'll go away after a while. You won't even notice it. But yeah.
Manager
James Mercer says, I can bear with you guys. It's a minor. Okay, cool.
Thank you, James.
James is saying hey to you, by the way. And YMCB 1955 says respect. What's up, YMCB 1955? All right, cool. So so you started going basically in your teenage years. And so how much recently have you been coming to Ghana? And you mentioned solo travel, right? So not even just Ghana, but the continent in general. What got you into making those trips? I know you said your friends didn't necessarily want to go, so you became a solo vacationer or holiday taker. But what got you thinking you wanted to, come to the continent?
So I think growing up, just I mean, having a name like Yawn, you're gonna need to know your history, your culture, your background. And I was always a bookworm. I loved learning about history, loved learning about culture. So I'd always be in a book. I would always be learning, teaching myself, being in the library all the time, learning so much. So I just learned a lot from a young age. I wanted to explore things for myself. But then I went to my undergraduate uni, was at the School of Oriental and African Studies. So that gave a kind of different edge to academics and learning that I didn't necessarily get in school. So that kind of also encouraged me to do it. But again, I just had no one to go with. So it got to a point where I just realized that I just couldn't wait for people. And I would just have to go myself. So whilst my first solo trip wasn't to Africa, it laid the foundations to go to Africa. And then since then, I just haven't looked back. And also, solo traveling is really liberating. So I think once you do it, you're just like, oh my gosh, I could do this. And then, yeah. Oh, thank you, Miss P.
Miss P loves your accent, she says. Wait, so how are you seeing the comments? Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see it. So on the side bar, there's two chat lists.
Oh, and you can see it. Okay, so I've had other guests who've never seen it, but this is good to know. I don't know what guests see. Okay, sorry, that was just a behind the scenes thing because I've had other guests that are like I have no idea what's happening. Okay, all right, cool. And so just a couple people commenting on Lewisham holds a lot of Caribbeans and Peckham, which comes Southwark. How do you pronounce that again? Southwark. Yeah. See, this is the thing about the British. How does that say? That says Southwark to me.
Southwark,
right? So I was saying Southwark, and people are like, "No, it's Southwark," or something like that. I was like, "Wait, what? How do you get that from that?" Anyway, yes. So in those areas, I did see a lot of Africans for sure. Solo travel is a must. A Taste of Cath says, very liberating. Yeah, I agree too. Okay, so you decided. So where did you go first? Was it Ghana first?
So Ghana was my first ever overseas country. First time on a plane. Flew Ghana Airways. For those who remember Ghana Airways, so that was my first flight. But my first solo trip was actually to Barcelona. So at the time, I was organizing a friend's trip. They fell through, and I was working at the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, which is a foundation focused on African governance, based in London, but they have an office in Senegal, and every year they host a conference somewhere on the continent. So the first trip I went when I joined, I think I'd only been there 2 weeks, and we actually went to Senegal. And so I think after a week of joining, they're like, "Oh, do you want to come to Senegal next week?" I was like, "Do I?" So that was like my first trip to I'd been to Tunisia when I was in uni, but my first trip outside of that, so Ghana, Tunisia, and then it was Senegal with work, and then the next year they were going to be going to Ethiopia. So between that, I had wanted to go on holiday, and typical story, people drop out, or they drop out and they don't tell you they've dropped out, but hey. And so I had gone to work, and I was working with a young lady from Paris and a young guy from Barcelona. So I just said, "I'm going to one of your cities this weekend, just pitch it to me." Barcelona won, booked my trip, and went to Barcelona for a long weekend, and just realized that, wow, actually, it wasn't that scary. It wasn't that deep. It was in 2013, so I always laugh about the fact that phones didn't have the selfie camera at the front. So in order for me to take a selfie, I literally had to turn my phone around. That's how back in the day it was. But once I did it, it was just a game changer. And I had been to Ghana by myself a few times, but because I had family there, I never kind of counted that as solo traveling, because I kind of had that soft landing and had that buffer. So Barcelona was the first time I was going solo, didn't know anyone, and just went.
Okay, cool. So, I read in your bio on LinkedIn, because we connected on LinkedIn, right? And it says, Talking Drums brings you travel tips and reviews, travel adventures, cultural experiences, reviews of literature from Africa and the diaspora, and a curated marketplace filled with beautiful items sourced from the continent. So that is a lot that it covers. So tell me about how you came up with the idea of Talking Drums, the name, and what is it in your, well, those are your own words, but separately from what I just read, what, if you could help us understand, what is Talking Drums?
So if I may start with that, I would just say, put simply, Talking Drums wants to bring people together and connect them to Africa. So be that through travel trips, traveling together, be that through helping you plan your own trips, be that through literature, be that through buying items on the marketplace. But ultimately, we strive as much as possible to procure goods and services from local businesses and local entrepreneurs. So in addition to bringing you together and connecting you to Africa, you're also having a positive impact in that you're supporting local entrepreneurs, local businesses, because especially in the tourism industry, a lot of these things are dominated by international companies. And so working directly with local people brings me a lot of joy, but you learn so much more from those experiences. A lot of the time you get off the beaten track. An example is the video I mentioned earlier in Tanzania. It's a waterfall in someone's back garden. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense, but I found out about it because actually there's this amazing YouTuber that I also watch called Jules on the Run, and she's from New York, and she relocated to Tanzania, and her husband is a videographer and photographer, and I knew I wanted to film something or take photos, but I just didn't know what of, and I just wanted nature, and I just kept saying, I just want nature. Maybe I'll do this next time because I don't really know. He suggested I put together a storyboard, and I was like, I don't even know how to do that. So I just kept saying I just want nature, and then he was like, how about this waterfall? And I was just like, oh wow, this looks incredible. And he took us there, and it was literally a gentleman, has a huge plot. He farms avocados. He has all of these crops, and then in addition to that, he has this waterfall that he's named after himself. So these kind of off the beaten track experiences that you wouldn't have had if you didn't, speak to the local person, or if you were, and there's nothing wrong with this, but if you were landing somewhere and you're just being driven straight from X to Y, and you're not getting the opportunity to maybe just take a bit of time out and interact with local people. So that's the why, and how it came about. So initially as a blog called Africa Through Our Eyes. So it literally did what it said on the tin. I was hoping to show Africa through our own eyes, because as we all know, the media portrayal of Africa is not accurate. It's not what we know it to be. And so that was the goal, but I really struggled with sharing my experiences, because I guess it's just sharing a piece of you, and I wasn't able to do that at that time. I found it quite difficult. So I would just travel, I'd document it for myself, and then I'd come back and people would be expecting me to post whilst I was away or whilst I got back on various social media. And I just always have been the person who waits until I get back. I don't know, my brain has always just been like, let me just go and just do my thing, and then when I get back, if I post, I'll post. But most of the time I'd post about a trip maybe like a year after I'd gone, and so it would be like, what is wrong with you? Like, we want to see your pictures from XYZ, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, here's a picture, so I just found it difficult. And then I got to a point where I was just like, look, are we in or are we out? So I'd been thinking about what should I do, and then I was in Ghana in December 2019 for the year of return, and I'd actually gone twice that year. So I'd gone in November for a wedding and then come back in December, and I had attended a conference, and at the conference, a guy mentioned Talking Drums, and I was like, that would be a good name for my novel. This novel that I've been writing for some years. So I plan to just park the name, use it for something. But then a few months later, when I had really decided, actually, let me rebrand my website, and my friend had told me to use Wix. I'd been using WordPress, and WordPress is just, if you're not tech savvy or, I don't know, coding savvy, WordPress is not the one to use. So a colleague of mine had told me to use Wix months before, and I was just like, nah. But when I had more time, I was like, actually, let me see how this is, and used Wix, and it was just so user friendly, and then it just visually looked so good. It was so easy to use, and I was able to create like an actual website that really I personally would be happy to use, and I think it was more striking. And then I just had this epiphany, like maybe I should rebrand the blog to Talking Drums, and so I did. And then a friend of mine's partner designed my logo, and then once the logo was designed, it was just an absolute game changer. And I've told this story many times, but I was just like, okay, I can't have this beautiful logo and this really nice website and just be like, oh, I don't really feel like, I don't know if I could post. Like I actually have a brand now. I just kind of snowballed into having a brand. So really love the logo. And then thinking about hosting group trips, I just thought I couldn't just be doing this on a whim, like, hey guys, I'm gonna do a group trip, like send me money, because I know if someone said that to me, like I'd be like, no. So I was like, okay, let's formalize this. If I'm gonna be hosting people, I want everything to be really formalized. So I honestly did not set out to have a business. It literally just happened, but it's become its own thing. I'm really happy that it has, to be honest.
Nice. Okay, so I was going to ask you a little bit about that trip to Tanzania, or I've heard some people call it Tanzania. But before we get there, couple things. One, so Abeni says, yep, I remember Ghana Airways. They canceled all flights from Gatwick. How do you pronounce that? It's Gatwick, right?
Say that again.
Is it Gatwick or Gatwick?
Gatwick.
Is it Gatwick? It is Gatwick. So it actually is phonetic. Okay. To Ghana in 2012. So you flew, well, Virgin is a great airline, but I know it's not an African airline. Was so disappointed, but happy to travel to Ghana then. Okay.
Can I just say, Abeni, I feel your pain. So myself or my mother had flights booked on Ghana Airways when it ceased to be in existence, and it took a long time to be able to get that money back. So one of my biggest lessons is always book your flights on credit cards, because if you book it on a debit card, you don't have the same protection, even though you have the cash right there. But if you book it on the credit card, then it's just call your bank, they can sort everything out. So it took a good few years, but I'm one of those people that I hate injustice. So you will give me my money back. So I got it back.
I'm all about fairness too. I get it. Okay. So James Mercer said, top 5 activities to do in Ghana outside of Accra. I have 1. Maybe 2, 3. I have 3.
3? Okay. I think I could do 5 maybe.
Okay, you could do 5, and then let's see if any of mine are different from yours, since you're the traveling person. But I have a couple too.
Okay, so first I just have to give a shout out to James. James is actually my friend, and he is the founder of an amazing app called Tape, which is coming soon. And he's also from Ghana, so representing GH. So outside Accra specifically, I would say Koforidua Bead Market. This is really specific, but Koforidua is the capital of the Eastern region, and there's a bead market there that they have been selling beads for centuries, and you can buy all different types of beads, necklaces, bracelets, etc. But there's one gentleman there that I found a video of him, and he comes from a like multiple generations of bead sellers, and he has some beads from like the 13th and 14th century from Mali, from all over Africa. And so he's selling beads, but also you can get a history lesson from him about beads and their uses in the past. And it was just incredible. It was just absolutely incredible. And he was super, super lovely. So I really recommend Koforidua Bead Market. I also recommend going to Kumasi. So Kumasi is the second city in Ghana, and Kumasi as a whole I recommend because there's so much history. A lot of the culture that we know to be Ghana is actually a Kan culture, but sometimes specifically Ashanti culture, and so you really see that on display. The Asantehene, who is the chief or the king of the Ashantis or Asantis, his palace is there. The old palace is now a museum, and then his new palace is next door. So I'd say Kumasi as a whole. And then specifically, I would also say Bonue Tourist Center, which is in the village of Bonue. So Bonue is actually, according to the legend, where Kente cloth came from. So we know Kente cloth, we see it all over the world. We know it comes from Ghana, but specifically, Kente cloth is said to have come from there. And then also there are other tribes, for example, the Eres that have kente cloth, and they also have their own history as well. So if you go to Bonue, you can actually make it. You can go to the tourist center. They have loads on sale, but they also show you how they make it. And just to say also, I am a big proponent of woven kente because of the history and the work that goes into making it. So when you see the history and the culture, you just might run away from printed kente. How many is that so far? Is that three? Three. Okay. I'd also say Tamale because that's in the north of Ghana, and I just feel like it's like a completely different experience. So it's almost like going to a different country, so to speak, because I feel like the south is quite different to the north. So having the experience there, I went during Harmattan, and it was scorching hot, I felt like I was near the Sahara Desert. But also Tamale is close to other kind of creative towns. So Bolgatanga is famous for weaving. So if you see people with like woven fans or baskets, they're usually made in Bolgatanga, the village of Bolgatanga, or town, I should say, sorry. And then also Tamale and the area is also famous for shea butter. So you can go to women's cooperatives and see how they make shea butter and buy it directly. And then if you go to the border with Burkina Faso, you can visit the Paga Crocodile Pond, which has crocodiles, and legend has it that the crocodiles agreed to live in harmony with the people, and so you could just go and see them. But also, if you're lucky, you can cross into the border into Burkina Faso. So I went to Burkina Faso because they let me cross the border and stay there for 15 minutes, and I count that. So that's number 4. So I've kind of put Tamale and Bolgatanga and Paga into one, but they're like 4 distinct places that are like miles apart from each other. And I've seen someone say Akosombo, and I want to agree. Honestly, it's just so green and stunning. So I would agree to Akosombo. And also, if you like green and stunning, then I have to also plug Quo, which is my hometown, because it's also green and stunning. But I like mountains, and if you're a fan of mountains, the kind of waterfalls or lakes, these places have that kind of relaxation. It's like a real difference compared to Accra in terms of maybe less busy, more calm. So yeah, that's 5.
That's 5, yes. So one person mentioned Kakum National Park, which of course can coincide with Cape Coast and Cape Coast Castle. What's the other castle there? I can't even remember the other castle. Yeah, Elmina Castle, right? So Elmina Castle. So I've been to both. You guys can see those videos on my channel. But I think I did all 3 in one day. It was a lot. It was a very intense trip. But since you're going so far, that's one thing. Not necessarily like Ghana specific, but it's a good getaway if you live here. It's just kind of like a resort. But I like the Aqua Safari Resort.
Ooh,
that's outside of Accra. So I do like the Aqua Safari Resort. It's a good like romantic getaway if you're in a relationship, one place to go. It's also fun to just go. Like we did a weekend trip there for work when I was at Jumia, and so that was cool. We did jet ski riding, and there were like animals. We did like a bunch of different stuff. So that was cool. So I would say the whole Cape Coast situation. So including all of that, I would say yeah. So what hotel did I just say? My brain's not working now.
Safari.
Yeah, Aqua Safari Hotel. And then last, I would mention the Wildlife Reserve.
Mole National Park.
No, the other one, the Wildlife Reserve. Somebody knows. I know they do. What's it? The Wildlife Reserve, Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah basically left all the land untouched on purpose so that it was
Shy Hills.
Shy Hills. The Shy Hills Wildlife Reserve, I think, is another really cool place that I would definitely recommend going to see if you want to see you want to hear a little bit about Ghanaian history and you want to see lots of like wildlife and it was really cool. I liked going to Shy Hills too. So this is all stuff I actually did like within the first 3 weeks of moving here. And so I haven't really done anything since because work has been so crazy, but I do need to get out more places. And you just named a couple places too. So yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff that can be done. Yeah.
I haven't been to Aqua Safari or Shy Hills, but they look beautiful and I've heard great things. And I really want to go to Royal Senchi in the Malta region. That place looks incredible. Incredible.
Well, Mr. Talktoomuch, which is hilarious because that's what I would call myself. Mentioned the Malta region, also says, hey, what's up, Mr. Talktoomuch? Okay, cool. So that answers the top 5 questions. So so some people are saying the Eastern region, some people are saying Volta. Apparently, Aqua Safari is in the greater Accra region. I think Accra is like any other major city, just keeps growing in terms of its surface area, right? Like the drive to Aqua Safari is not like it's like I lived in Los Angeles, which is a big city, right? Driving from it's a giant county, right? Driving from like Long Beach, and Long Beach is its own county, but driving from just north of Long Beach, right, all the way to North Hollywood is far. Not as far as driving to Aqua Safari from anywhere else in Accra. So if that's considered Accra, Accra's huge because that's a long drive. It's over like an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. It's almost 2 hours, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so I guess it is in Accra according to some of the folks here. Okay, cool. So getting back to your story. So I want you to talk a little bit about this trip. So you sent me a video, 2 videos of your time in Tanzania. So can you talk about that and who you met up with and what you did while you were there, and a little bit about that experience so we get in a little bit of an idea of like what it is that you do?
Sure. So I love Tanzania. Just need to put that out there because that was actually my 7th trip there. I'm not averse to repeating destinations. I know some people are, but I don't mind. I wanted to start doing these trips that I host people on tours, group travel trips. So you could be solo traveler, you can come with friends, but the whole premise of the group trips is to organize trips, bring people together, as I say, connect them to Africa. And all you need to think about is your flight and your visas and inoculations or whatever. And then everything else, like once you land until you end the trip, the tour, like I organize everything. So these 2 incredible people, Rome and Cam from Dormtainment, if anyone here watches Dormtainment, they've had a YouTube channel for years. They're creative entrepreneurs that includes comedy. So they've had this comedy channel for some time. They also have, they're like multi-hyphenated entrepreneurs. So they have a sunglass line, for example, called Shady Side Up. They have podcasts. So I've been thinking that I wanted to kick off my travel adventures, as they're called. And Roman Cam had recently traveled to Senegal. Senegal keeps coming up with this conversation. And I'd watched their vlog and I just really, really liked how they traveled. And that was this real appreciation for being in Africa. And to my earlier point around the media portrayal of Africa and it not necessarily being accurate, it was really amazing to see 2 people go to Africa for the first time, go to a place where the first and second language isn't either of the languages they speak, and just have the most time and just love it so much. So kicking off the Talking Drums trip, I hosted them to Tanzania, and this is a taste of what the trips that I'll be hosting will be. So the first part of the trip was on mainland Tanzania. We started in Arusha, which is one of the main, I think it's the 2nd biggest city, but also it's the kind of main stop that people go to before they go on safari. And but we actually explored Arusha a little bit. And as I mentioned before, it's just super green, super beautiful. It's in the north of Tanzania. And then we went on safari to the Serengeti and the Ngorongoro crater. The Ngorongoro crater is one of my favorite places on earth. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible. It's just surreal. It's a crater, or technically by definition it's a caldera, but it used to be a volcano taller than Mount Kilimanjaro, collapsed in on itself when it erupted, and now there are just animals that live there. And then alongside the rim, like Maasai have cattle that they kind of herd, and they live in harmony with the animals, and I just find that just mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So it's such a stunning place. So we did that, and then we stayed in a few different places. So one place was a tented camp. It sounds scary to some people, but I like this kind of stuff. So literally as the sun was setting, there were giraffes like walking past the camp, and it was beautiful. And then the next night we stayed in this really, really lovely hotel who have the most incredible customer service I've just ever received in life. Like, they really know how to look after you well. I think that actually speaks to Tanzania as a whole, actually. And then once we finished safari, we flew to Zanzibar. So Zanzibar is a semi-autonomous region in Tanzania. So it's actually technically one country. But they came together in a union in the 60s. Actually, which gave the name Tanzania. So mainland used to be called Tanganyika, and then you had Zanzibar, and they came together and formed the United Republic of Tanzania. So we spent some time on the island of Zanzibar. There's quite a few other islands that people don't always know about, and actually Zanzibar is 2 islands. There's a big island, and then called Unguja, but everyone calls it Zanzibar. Then there's a small island called Pemba. So we spent time on the big island, resting, enjoying the water, and it's just absolutely stunning. But also, again, these are things that you're not necessarily seeing in the depiction of Africa. When I first went to Zanzibar, I was like, this is what I know the Caribbean to be, but actually we have this on our doorstep. So hosted the guys, they vlogged everything and had a great time. And I just thought the vlog really captured really well the experience we had. But this is what Talking Drums will be offering as part of some of the offerings of Talking Drums. So group trips where I'll host you, and these may be places people want to go and just don't even know where to begin. So it kind of takes all of that away from the person who wants to travel.
Nice. So I'm going to put that in the description. I'll put both the titles of the videos and the links to them. You know, the Dormtainment guys have like over 1 million subscribers on their channel. They do all kinds of content. I got into a little bit of rabbit hole once you sent me these videos, and I was watching a few of their videos. They have a ton of stuff, comedies and all kinds of other stuff. So it was interesting to see these guys who do skits and other stuff, right? And have all these other talks, like on the continent of Africa, and experiencing what they were experiencing. It was a very different. It seemed very different from their channel, but it was really cool to see. So shout out to you for helping them get that experience. Okay, cool. So so on that note, right? I did want you to tell a little bit about that because I thought that was interesting. What countries are you hosting people in on the continent?
So for this year, the focus is Tanzania and Ghana. So there's a Tanzania trip coming up in November, and then Ghana in December. And then next year, the plan, I've had a lot of people say, I'm going to come on your Tanzania trip next year. I'm like, who told you I'm going there next year? I totally am, but who told you? So due to public demand, Tanzania next year, but also Senegal and South Africa potentially, but Kenya as well. So the plan is to kind of go to other countries as well, but also repeat some of the countries I do. So as I said, I don't mind repeating, but there are some people who maybe want to go to other places. So for Senegal, for example, I partnered with this really amazing guide who's been a guide for like over 30 years, and he's one of the few English-speaking guides. And I went earlier this year on a kind of like an exploratory trip because I hadn't been since 2018. And when I went in 2018, that was my first time. No, that was my first time by myself. So I'd gone with work first, then went by myself in 2018 and managed to navigate with my limited French skills that I'm still surviving on from 16 years old, GCSE French. Managed to navigate it, but actually having an English speaking guide was just a game changer. So I was able to go to places that I hadn't heard of before, and also some places I had, like Lac Rose. If I'd have organized that myself, like I just don't even. I'd probably still be there now. But having him organize it, and then also we went to this place called Lompool, which is a desert area, and it's like we have so much in our continent that we don't necessarily realize. So with Lompool, what we know to be Dubai with the sand dunes and the camels, they literally have this in Senegal. Like it's right there. We have it there. So Senegal, Kenya, Ghana, Tanzania, and South Africa for next year.
Okay, somebody did ask about Nairobi and Mombasa, but you just said Kenya. Did you mean Nairobi in Kenya?
Yes, so Nairobi, Mombasa, but I'm trying to see if I can add. So the plan would be to do safari as well, and then Nairobi and Mombasa, but Diani Beach is not too far from Mombasa, and again, like stunning clear waters, just absolutely beautiful. But they also have an island called Lamu, which is really similar to Zanzibar. So I want to see if I can incorporate that. But if not, I think Kenya is an incredible country, and there's so much you could do. And I've been a couple of times, but I didn't realize how lit Nairobi nightlife was. I didn't realize this was a thing. So I have this amazing friend called Alexa, who I need to get some tips from her on really how to do Nairobi nightlife. But also my amazing friend Tala is here, and we are huge fans of Sauti Sol, which is a Kenyan band, and they are phenomenal. But every time we've gone to their concert, like I really feel like I'm in Nairobi. So I really want to capture that in the trip as well. Like if we go to Nairobi, because some of the trips you kind of want to skip the city. A lot of people like they live in cities, so when they travel, they want to go. They want to avoid the city. But I think Nairobi has so much going on that actually. Yes, James, we must include Nairobi as well as Mombasa.
Okay, cool. So there was a question from the Sound of Accra podcast, and they're asking, what's the most underrated place to visit in Ghana and also in Africa from your experience? The most underrated place. So I guess one for each. The most underrated place in Ghana and the most underrated place in all of Africa. 54 countries? 54
That's really
countries.
tricky. So I did a tally, and I think I've been to 11 African countries, but a few of them I've repeated a few times. So I would say for Tanzania, I would absolutely say the Ngorongoro crater. There's just nothing that compares to it, and I can explain it, but it just doesn't. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. And also because you always hear about the Serengeti, and you actually have to go through the Ngorongoro crater, like you drive through it or past it on the rim to get to the Serengeti. But I think because I didn't know too much about it before I went there, and then I went there, and I just remember asking the guide, like, I don't get it. How did these animals get here? And he was like, it's God. I was like, that's deep. So like, you know, it's really like, it's just amazing. It's amazing. And then in Ghana, this is a really tricky one. It's a really tricky one actually. And my mind will probably change quite a few times, but I do think going to Bonue, especially someone who I just really love history and culture, going to the Kente village and just really understanding the Kente village and the history and how the art has been passed down through generations, and just being able to at least sample, trying to make my own as well. That was an amazing experience. And I think because Kente is such a big part of Ghanaian culture, I think that it's an underrated place that I think more people should go to. So I'm going to say Bonue.
Okay, cool. So there were a couple other thoughts from the last few minutes that I didn't want to miss. So some of the other places that people said you can go is Tagbo Waterfalls, where you can also hike. Then you got, was it Busia Beach in Axim? James mentioned the Western region as well.
We need to add.
Let's see. Okay, Mrtalktoomuch. I love this name. I have to tell you, a friend of mine, a Sierra Leonean friend of mine, when I was in high school, cell phones were not prevalent. So, because I'm an old man. So believe it or not. So I used to call her house, and her mom would always pick up because they had a
Oh,
house.
the house.
And her mom would always be like, because we would always be on the phone all the time, her mom would be like, Mr. Talker, Mr. Talker, Mr. Talker. So when I met her in person, as soon as she heard my voice, she was like, oh, Mr. Talker. So the fact that he calls up Mr. Talk Too Much is hilarious because I can relate. I'm Mr. Talker, apparently. Shout out to her, Sierra Leonean living in was it Largo, Maryland? Largo, Maryland. Anyway, we're going all the way back to the year 2000. This is how long ago it was. 22 years ago. Anyway, where's my next stop? My next stop is, and then we'll get back to yeah, but I am going to Cologne, Germany on Monday.
Nice.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So I'll be there for a week. And then from there, I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia in the US for a little over a week to the ATL. I've never been to the ATL longer than a day. So this is going to be my first time in Atlanta. I'm going from Atlanta to New York. I'll be in New York for 2 weeks. And then I'm going to LA for at least a week.
Wow.
And then I'm back in New York until the middle of November. And then I'm flying to Sierra Leone until the end of December before I come back to Ghana. So that's the travel the rest of the year.
Wow, so you're going to be away from Ghana for a hot minute.
Yeah, I've actually tallied it. And by the end of this year, I will have only been in Ghana for 5 months.
Oh.
I didn't even realize it. But yeah, I mean, this year I live in Ghana, and I'm a Ghana resident, but I've actually spent more time away than I have in Ghana. But I also spend like a month or a month and a half at a time in Sierra Leone on the housework. Anyway, it's not about me. It's about you.
It's also good that you get to work. I think that's really good. Do you get to actually explore some of the countries or cities that you go to when you travel with work?
I do. So when I was in Cannes, France, I did spend some time traveling a bit. I went to Saint-Tropez while I was there. When I was in London, I was there for a conference, but I ended up going to Peckham and, what's this other place? Lewisham. And there was one more place I went to that I can't remember off the top of my head. But like I got a chance to experience going around. I went with Mariama Forbes. I actually posted those videos from London on Saturday. So if you guys want to see what my London experience was like, check that out. We didn't get a chance to do a meet and greet. We wanted to, but it just didn't work out. It was hectic. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I do try my best. You know, like I used to travel a lot, 2014, 2015. And so everywhere I went, I would spend like an extra 2 or 3 days exploring. Like I went to, Barcelona, and I didn't know anything about Barcelona, but I happened to listen to a podcast about this guy Gaudi who like died randomly, and he built the Sagrada Familia, right? Is that what this place called? Yeah. And so I went to explore that. So yeah, I mean, I try my best to, and that was interesting to me. European culture is not as interesting to me as African culture and history, but when I'm there, I might as well learn about it. And so I did. But I think that's also what helped with when I moved to Ghana, wanting to go explore everything, because I had done that a little bit in other countries. And so moving here, I was like, I gotta see everything. I gotta learn about Ghanaian history. And it was Brixton actually. It was so good call, James. Okay, so Tola says yes, please to Senegal. So
yes,
you gotta take her. Mr. Talk Too Much says you should visit the Jerk Soul restaurant and interview the owner who's from Chicago. I shall, and I will, probably when I come back. I have less than 7 days to move. I got a lot of stuff I have to do before I move here, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. All right, so yeah, so okay, so those are all the questions or comments and stuff that came up. And I guess I should go to Croydon. Was it Croydon? Is that
Croydon?
Croydon? Okay. That's obviously somewhere in London, in the UK, right?
So it's on the border of London. So part of Croydon's in London and part of Croydon's in Surrey, which is one of the home counties, so one of the areas surrounding London.
Okay, got it. So at some point I'll have to visit. I gotta still go to Birmingham because my cousin lives in Birmingham, and we have to shoot some content together. She's been doing YouTube forever.
Oh wow.
And you know, back in the day, she had like a couple of like viral videos, and she kind of was like a local celebrity there, kind of. And so, you know, I want to shoot some content with her. It's
Yeah.
funny because like I hadn't seen her from when she was 9 till she was 21. So like when I last saw her, she was like trying to swing from my cornrows, and then when I saw her, she was like 5'10", you know, like a grown person. We went out and drank together and hung out, and I met her friends and stuff, and I was like, man, it's a completely different world. Anyway, so what is it? IP Dumont, 1963. I know I'm messing your name. I'm sorry. It says, you're quite the jet setter. Yes, I am. Luckily, but it's all funded by my employments, so I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been interesting, but you know that means they work you like crazy. They're gonna be flying around to different places. You better believe I don't have much free time. Okay, cool. So, sorry.
I said they give with one hand and take with the other.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Destination Africa group. We haven't caught up in a while. We definitely need to catch up. Your videos that we did together are being edited next week, so finally they will be done. All right. So last couple questions I want to ask you about is advice you would give to anyone planning to travel, maybe doing solo travel or coming with a hosted trip that you're doing. So I think those are two different questions. So any advice you would give to someone doing solo travel and a hosted trip that you're hosting?
Okay, so for solo travel, I would say for both to be fair, but solo travel, do your research. So research the country you're going to. I'd always look on your local country's kind of foreign office equivalent website to see what the guidance is, but also take it with a pinch of salt because some of them are really intense, and then you get to the country and you're just like, oh. But yeah, just check the guidance on there. But also they usually provide you with a background on the country as well. And I'd research the country's culture, languages, anything that can help you understand where you're going to, and also be respectful of the culture. But also it can be conversation starters. People are always willing to talk to you and share things and help you learn things. So if you go with some knowledge, I think that it kind of prepares you for the trip. I'd say, especially with solo traveling, one thing I tend to do is I kind of have a rough idea of what I'm planning to do, and then I just let someone know, and I'll share copies of my documents with them. So if I've booked a hotel with my flights as well, I'd share photocopies and just let someone know where I'm going to be. I think YouTube is such a great resource for helping you research trips, because you can get an idea of where you're going to before you actually get there. I'm quite old school. I still look at guidebooks, but I did a survey through Talking Drums, and apparently I'm the only one that does because no one else seems to. But I like guidebooks. There's something about them. I guess it's nostalgic. And yeah, so I research. There's so many ways you can, your Googles, your YouTubes, your Instagrams, your TripAdvisors, your guidebooks. And then also, I would get a SIM card as soon as you land. That has been such a game changer for me with traveling. Usually you can get a SIM card in the airport, and every time I haven't done that, I've wished that I did. So as much as you can, get a SIM card in the airport. One thing they started doing in Tanzania is like I'd stay at a hotel and I'd just say, oh, where can I go to get a SIM card? And they're like, oh, don't worry, I'll get the person to come to the hotel. And I'm like, oh, see customer service. But I think it's really important because it helps you navigate the country much more easily. So there's just kind of like a few things. I'm sure there's loads more on my mind. And actually, if you go on my website, I do have a blog post, which is about 15 tips I give on solo traveling, especially for your first trip. But I would say just do it also. Just absolutely do it. It's just an incredible experience. And then you'll end up going to places that you probably have always wanted to go to and never have because you maybe were waiting for people. I tend to stay in hotels. I've actually never stayed in an Airbnb. I've stayed in guest houses or service accommodation, but I usually book through booking.com. And so there are some places, like for example, Embassy Gardens, that you can get on Airbnb, but I've booked them through booking.com. But yeah, I've actually never used Airbnb, which is controversial. But I think maybe it's this solo traveler thing. I'm just like, okay, if I book through booking and if anything happens, I can just rebook, or usually it's a hotel. But there's discussions around whether maybe as a solo traveler, it might be better to stay in a hostel. So hostels nowadays are not as you can get some really nice hostels nowadays, and some of the hostels have your own room and your own kind of like ensuite, whereas back in the day it might only be sharing options. So apparently hostels are good because you can meet people, so like in a common area. But I've always tended to stay in either service apartments or hotels, so that probably isn't the best way to meet people when traveling. But I think maybe if you book tours and stuff like that, if you want to meet people, if you want to just go on holiday and be on your own, that is also fine. I've had those kind of trips, but I've also had trips where I'm just like, let me meet some people, and you can find that you do that on tours and stuff like that. So I'd say that's for solo traveling. And then for Talking Drums Adventures, to be honest, the preparation, it's a lot less preparation you would need, which is one of the benefits of booking with us. So all you really need to do is book your flight and sort out your visa and any kind of maybe jabs you might need, but we can provide guidance on that. And the whole premise of this is to take all the logistics off of your case. So you book your trip. We can give you tips. I don't book flights. I'm not a travel agent, but I can help you. I can give you tips on flights to book and airlines that I prefer, etc. And also tips on where to look for perhaps guidance on the country. And then everything else is taken care of. So from when you land until when you leave. I tend to find as well that, because a few people have asked me, oh, if I come on your trip, can I stay in the country longer afterwards? Absolutely. Like, you're not bound to only stay in a country for 8 days because the tour is 8 days long. You can do the tour and then you might maybe get a taste for the country, then you could stay longer. So I tend to find when I do solo trips, to get my bearings, I might do a tour at the very beginning, and then it helps me kind of, like for example, in South Africa, they have the open top buses, the red buses that drive you around, and the tour buses, the hop on, hop off ones. So I think the first time I was in Joburg, I did that and got my bearings on day 1 or 2. And then after that, obviously being conscious of safety, etc., but went to certain places directly myself afterwards, or maybe stayed in a particular stop for longer because I knew that, I could take an Uber back, or, those kind of things. So essentially, we just make it easier so you can come, have fun, make friends. I really want the travel adventures to have people leaving as friends and family, because I find that so important. Because I find when you do solo travel, you go on tours and everyone's like, oh my God, let's stay in touch forever. And then that doesn't always happen. But there have been times, like when I was in Tanzania in November last year, I met this amazing young lady, and like we've kept in touch. We're thinking about, she's thinking about going to Rwanda, and she was like, if you want to join me, you can join me. Or I was in Morocco, and I was in Le Jardin Majoral, which is by Yves Saint Laurent's house, and it's the beautiful blue garden that you usually see. And I was just kind of taking it all in, and this lady came up to me and was like, are you by yourself? And I was like, yeah. She's like, me too. She was like, do you mind taking a picture of me when you're kind of, finished taking it all in? And then we just kind of had a catch up, and she was saying how she just qualified as a surgeon, and this was her treat to herself. She was traveling Africa. And more recently, she traveled around Botswana, South Africa. I mean, just all these incredible places. And I was just like, you need to bring me next time. And she was like, next time I'll let you know. So there are some people that you kind of connect with through travel, and then you're just like, you love solo traveling, but also they're fellow solo travelers. Maybe you could meet together, do part of the trips together, then go off and do your own thing. no one feels obligated, but the options there. So yeah, I really want people to kind of bond on these trips, which is why the intake is actually quite small. At the moment, I'm aiming for maximum 5. I just think that 5 gives you the opportunity to really get to know each other. And then maybe as time goes on, I'm going to expand that. But I don't want it to be like big groups and you're just kind of like passing each other.
I get it. Nice. Okay, so a couple quick things before we bring this thing to a close. There's a couple questions. So James asks, is Sierra Leone cool? It is cool, James. I always rep for Sierra Leone. I'm not wearing it today because it doesn't match my colors, but the Sierra Leone flag is always nearby. So yeah, I mean, look, here's what I would say about Sierra Leone, right? It's a little bit more of a rougher country than Ghana, right? It's not necessarily as soft of a landing as you would get when you're coming to Ghana, but it has its features and its benefits, right? So Sierra Leone is a very interesting place because it has really nice, beautiful mountains, a lot of greenery. It is underdeveloped in many ways, so most of it is still greenland. And also the beaches are amazing. Some people would say the best beaches in the world, actually. So at one point in time, it was, one of the beaches, I think number 2 beach was voted the number 1 beach in the world. So we have 7 beaches in Sierra Leone. It's a small country, but 7 beaches. And the food is great. The food is really, really good. Outside the jollof rice discussion, we can talk about cassava leaves. We can talk about our groundnut soup is good. There's a lot of different cuisines that you can get in Sierra Leone that you would really like. So yeah, I think Sierra Leone's great. And another thing that's interesting about Sierra Leone is the culture is a little bit more like aggressive. So it's a little bit more, it can be exciting, put it that way, to be there. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't, at least go at one point in your life. If you're not a descendant of a Sierra Leonean tribe, then maybe go with someone that's from Sierra Leone, but I definitely recommend going. Excuse me. Okay. For the Atlanta trip, Miss P says I should go to the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr. She went there years ago when she visited Atlanta. He lived in that house until he was 12. Definitely have to go there. There's a bunch I need to do. I mean, Atlanta is obviously, you got Clark Atlanta. Not Clark, sorry. You got Morehouse. Clark is important. It's an HBCU too. But you got Morehouse, which is like the HBCU. Spelman's there. So I got to, if I can, I got to try to go by those campuses. Unfortunately, I don't have the week off. So I will be working. So I don't know how much time I'm going to get a chance to do it. So I'll try to do it over the weekends. But I got a lot to try to do in a little bit of time because it's my friend's having a birthday, 35th, I think, milestone birthday. And so we're trying to figure out what we're going to be doing. There's going to be a lot of turning up in Atlanta. But I don't drink anymore, so it'll be all sober fun for me. But I'm excited about it. Yeah. So Brown Coat Blue says, yo, greetings, Joe in chat. What's up, Brown Coat Blue? My man David Macrae is saying, tell him about Sierra Leone. Frank Mensa says, I love solo travel. I haven't really done like solo travel. Like I'm thinking about this. Every place that I've been, Jamaica, I went with a bunch of friends. Dominican Republic, I went with a bunch of friends. Cuba, I went with a bunch of friends. Everywhere I've been in Mexico, like I've been, technically I went to Nigeria as solo travel earlier this year, which is probably the one place that you normally probably wouldn't do solo travel to, especially if you're not Nigerian and don't have any. But I was meeting up with people there though. So Cath Scott says, just joined. Are you still there? We are still here, but you can watch us. You can watch us on YouTube Live. We are kind of bringing it to a close, but if you want to see our guests, you can jump over there. The link is pinned there. So WM West Africa 1980 says, I'll be back in Sierra Leone end of November. Well, I will be there around the same time, so maybe we'll cross paths. Sierra Leone is the dark horse. Yeah, people don't know. People don't know.
Yeah.
One thing that people say about Sierra Leone, and I'm starting to realize that, okay. people are really used to seeing like an example of something, using that as a way to describe this. So like, this is the Uber of this, right? And
Mhm.
so with Sierra Leone, a lot of times they call it the Athens of West Africa, what it used to be. But I don't know if we want to give it to Athens. Why can't it just be the Sierra Leone of West
No,
Africa?
absolutely agree.
Yeah,
Came across a video the other day that described Zanzibar as the Maldives of Africa, and I said no, it's the Zanzibar.
Zanzibar
But like
of Africa.
exactly
Yeah.
compared, just because some people have built hotel rooms on the water. Just no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So Sierra Leone is a dark horse, and it was where the first university I don't know if you could say the first modern university in West Africa was in Sierra Leone. Many people, that's why Sierra Leone has so many different people there's many reasons why there's so many people, but there were people who went to school there, stayed there, right? So a lot of people went to college in Sierra Leone before everything happening with the Civil War and everything kind of going in a negative direction for a while. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a dark horse for sure. I love Sierra Leone. I do. All right. So Zaz's son says, great show here. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it. So Menelik says, Ghana was my international trip and was a solo trip.
Nice.
Shout out to you for making that solo trip.
Oh yeah, Kwame Nkrumah National Park.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I also went to Kwame Nkrumah National Park too.
Nice,
I also went to W.E.B. Du Bois Museum as well. So all of that. Well, the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum, actually, that was before I had a YouTube channel, so I didn't know what I was doing. So I recorded it, but it didn't turn out too well. So that's still sitting on my phone. But I may try to figure out how I could piece it together and make it content so you guys can watch it. James Mercer said he enjoyed this. Well, thanks for watching. Appreciate you stopping by. Okay, so do you have any last first of any last words before we ask you where they can find you online?
So I would just say, first of all, again, Joe, just thank you. Like, I've really enjoyed this, and this is one of my favorite YouTube channels. So I'm delighted to be here today, and I'm really delighted just to be able to share with like-minded people who love our continent. You know, we all love our continent so much, so it's so amazing to be able to talk with people who feel the same way and who know it for what it is and not for how it's necessarily portrayed, and to be part of that change of the narrative. And also just, I think even if you don't feel like, solo traveling's for you, please do consider group trips. And if you don't necessarily have someone to go with, don't let that stop you. Like I'm one of two people that I know that's been to Madagascar, because I was like, I'm not waiting for people, and I went to Madagascar. And so if I waited for people, that wouldn't have happened. And so just to have those experiences, don't wait for people. And I think that's a lesson in life, to be honest. I apply it a lot to travel, but I think that's a lesson for a lot of things. Sometimes you're going to have to just, as Mike says, just do it. But also I think that it's up to us, it's our responsibility to change the narrative, but also to support our continent with Talking Drums. Like, one of the main focuses is Black economic empowerment. How can we be supporting local businesses, local entrepreneurs? And we're doing that specifically through travel. So Joe kindly posted the links of the trip with Roman Cam from Dormtainment, and through that trip we supported directly 7 local businesses and entrepreneurs, and indirectly many, many more. So, for example, the safari company, most safari companies are international. And I specifically was able to find this absolutely incredible, locally owned, African-owned, Tanzanian-owned safari company who is just absolutely phenomenal. And now we're actually going to be partnering going forward on our Tanzanian safaris, because he literally was just phenomenal. So I think that's, I just think about the impact that you can have, and if there's a way you can be supporting local people, try to do so. Africa is a continent with the largest number of entrepreneurs, I believe, especially the largest number of women entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So we need to do as much as we can to support that. That was my rally call.
There it is. So James wanted to support your business by saying, make sure you go to Ghana by going through Talking Drums. He started a little bit of a debate here, so I'm not gonna go through all of those, but obviously it's just him being supportive of his friend. Relax, guys. So
I appreciate it.
Really, anything else you want to say to the people? I think I already asked you that. Maybe we should ask you this. Where can people find you online? Yeah.
Okay, so online you can find me at www.talkingdrumstravel.com, on Instagram at Talking Drums Travel, and then now also on YouTube, Talking Drums. So that's website, Instagram, and YouTube. And there's a contact page on the website as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to send questions my way as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, this has been another great talk, and I appreciate you all for joining. And of course, I appreciate you for coming on and always being a active member of the chat. It's weird to not have you in the chat messaging right now, but I appreciate you always being an active member. And with that, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next video.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.